Not everything's going to be for you, and some things you're gonna hate, some things you're gonna love.
How do you know something is not for you?
After I'd done all the various roles within the bank, I did ask for more, and there wasn't much more. I thought, no, it's time for me to move on.
Hi, I'm Graham Rogers.
Hi, I'm Kate Forrester,
Co-CEO of Homes for Students.
Managing Director at Homes for Students.
We employ
Around 1,200 staff.
and this is my
Duvet flip.
What was some of those things that you learned that has made you better people, better professionals?
The justification for it was, you don't have enough presence. That's haunted me.
How do you get rid of that feedback fear?
Don't be as scared of somebody, potentially being promoted above you.
What's your invisible success?
Being able to leave my responsibilities in the capable hands of the team that we've created.
Our people are our superpower.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet every morning?
For me,
it's about...
Hi, I'm Graham Rogers.
I'm Kate Forrester,
Co-CEO of Homes for Students.
Managing Director at Homes for Students.
What I'm excited about talking about today is what we do within our organisation.
I said yes to coming on my duvet flip because my team keep pushing me outside of my comfort zone. I've never met Jack before. I love Jack's questioning technique.
So I hope that from today people identify that it's not just about how much you earn, but don't forget who you are as a person.
Hi Jack.
Great to be here. Let's do this.
You follow me everywhere.
Welcome to my duvet flip.
Hi.
Hi.
There's two of you. Double trouble.
Two for the price of one.
Double trouble.
Yeah.
You could say that.
I want to start here, and I always start here. First jobs. Tell me a little bit about your first jobs, and what did that job teach you? I just want you to go back down memory lane a little bit and think to yourself, what would you be saying to your younger self now? With everything you've learned, everything you know, what would you be telling your younger self? But firstly, what was your job? Graham, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so my first job was a paper round. So I used to deliver the evening or the afternoon paper, Monday to Saturday. And then I have to get up early on a Sunday morning for the big Sunday papers delivered. So I liked that because I liked having the extra cash. So I used to get pocket money off mum and dad. But I like nice things, and my mum and dad always said to me, well, if you want that, you're going to have to pay. And I liked the fact that it was something that I'd earned and that I'd done myself within it, sort of thing. And I didn't always like getting up early on a Sunday morning for the carrying a big heavy bag around, sort of thing, and everything as well. But I think it was just that something to say, well, actually, I've not just been given something, I've contributed to this myself, sort of thing. I think that's been kind of instilled in me from an early age, in that I want to achieve something rather than just be given something within it.
And Kate, what about you? What was your kind of first
My
job?
first roles were waitressing, and I loved it. And I always say now to my friends, that's probably one of the favourite jobs I ever had, most favourite jobs I ever had. So I started to do it at the age of 13 and a half, and I did it because I knew it would help my mum and dad. So it meant I didn't have to apply pressure on them for the things that I wanted, so similar to Graham in that respect. But also, I put as much money back into the family as I possibly could. And that's just something that I've, I continued to do no matter what role I was in, really. That's what sort of spurred me on, is I recognised we couldn't have as much as maybe what my friends had. And I wanted to take as much pressure off my mum and dad as I possibly could.
And for anyone who's starting their first job, what's your advice to them?
My advice for anybody is, when you're doing anything, is making sure that you give it your all. So I think is that not everything's going to be for you, and some things you're gonna hate, some things you're gonna love. But don't just take it at face value. Try not to, have a go at something first. It's better to have had a go and then find out, actually, that's really not for you, or actually found out that you really might love it. So just whatever you do, I always think, give it your all, and then decide where you're going to be from that. I say is that not everybody starts, there's not an exact career path for everybody. Kate and I have taken a different path ourselves, but you can still end up in different places. So I just think is that you're only going to learn about the role and about yourself if you actually really embrace within it and, try and do that little bit extra, within there. So that's what I used to try and do. Not always, maybe when I was 16, maybe not so much, but as I got a little bit older, I was always like, well, how do I get more, or how do I find out more about this, and, challenge yourself in that sort of sense. So that's what I would always, and that's what I try and say to my children as well, in that, they say is that be a bit uncomfortable. You find out more about yourself in the uncomfortable areas than you do in the comfort zone. Sort of
And Graham, how do you know something is not for you? I'm a big believer that every job has cheers and chores.
Yep.
You get paid for the chores, and it's your job to make the cheers happen.
Yep.
Nice.
But if you're in the job, how do you know that it's not for you, or you're just having a bad day, or it's rainy today? What would you say?
I always think is that, could I see myself doing this in X number of years' time? Is this what I want to do? Or actually, can I see that what I'm doing now will be a stepping stone to do what I really want to do? So that's, there's certain things of my job that I love, that I do now, and certain things that I don't always love, but I'm like, am I going to be doing this every day? Maybe not, but I said when I was younger, I used to go, I need to do this because I need to learn it, or I need to prove I can do it in order to do the next sort of level. So I think or sometimes I'd be like, actually, I've deviated a little bit. I was like, I'm not going to be just a pure accountant. So I knew that wasn't for me. So I'm like, right, I'm going to deviate in, but I had good skills to learn. But I can't see myself doing that for the next 10 years. So I was moving back away from, that sort of role. So I think it's having that understanding of what you'd like, but also what do you think you're good at, as well as can you see yourself doing it for a long term? Because I think if you can't see yourself doing it for a long term, I think that's when life becomes, your work life becomes more of a strain.
And know that to get to somewhere, there might be paths you have to take that may be left, right, and may not be what your vision was, right? That, the hockey stick business plan that you see when someone pitches a...
Yeah. I mean, not all rainbows have pots of gold at the bottom of them, sort of thing as well. And I think it's important to understand that that there are there's bumps in every road, isn't there, sort of thing. It's just ensuring that you miss as many of those potholes as you can. And sometimes you've got to go through a bit of bumpiness in order to get to the smooth part. It sounds very cliche, but I think it is that having a bit of resilience, internal resilience of going, I just need to tough this out a little bit, and then better things will happen. Within it, I need to prove myself, or I need to learn this. I need to get better at this skill, whatever that could be.
Kate, what about you?
So as Graham alluded to then, I didn't take the sort of traditional route of going to university. I didn't even get my A-levels, actually. So I sort of very quickly realised I liked earning the money and went through various different roles. And when I started to work in office type roles, I recognised that the leaders didn't necessarily always deliver what they said they would. And I kind of clung on to that as a bit of a USP. So my whole ethos really, and kind of moral standing throughout my whole career has been, irrespective of what job I'm in and what the constraints are, if I say it out loud and I make a promise to you, then I will deliver what I've said I will. So I think from an advice point of view, I think that's a good starting point, and that's given me a good grounding, really.
I love that. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, simple,
yeah,
but it's really effective.
It's simple, but actually really rare in this world.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of times that you can go into places and people will talk and talk, but they won't actually deliver anything. So I think that's great advice. So what happened next? So you did your paper round. You worked in a restaurant. Where did life take you next? And what was the next path? And why did you choose? I want to talk a little bit about making choices and why you make the choices that you do. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose what happened next?
Yeah. I was quite academic at school, sort of thing, so I'd got reasonably good grades, and it was almost the natural progression that after school I was going to go on and do my A-levels. I don't think I even had any other thought of that's what I was going to do. I've got an older sister, and she did that route, and I was able to do that. So I think it was just because I was quite academic at school, and therefore I went on to A-levels. And then I said from my A-levels again, I was fortunate that my parents were able to support me to go to university, and therefore that just felt a natural progression. Although actually within my family we were one of the first really to start to go to university, so it wasn't as if this was a traditional thing within our whole family. But I would say my parents were able to help me to do that, and I say is that I did want to have a professional career. I always had that viewpoint from an early age, and let's say motivated maybe a little bit at times by the monetary goals that you could have, and as a youth within it. But I think I was more like, well, in order to become professional, I need therefore in my eyes at that point to go to university. And I wanted to go to university for two things as well. I think university teaches you two things. I think there's the whole academic side of university, and there's the life skills that it teaches you as well. I was very keen to live away from home and to have that independence, because I was always quite an independent child. So I wanted that, and I just thought that was where it was going to lead me to be, really. And I said that was perfect for me. I think it was really great. I loved going to university and everything as well. But I also realised that the academic side of it wasn't the be-all and end-all of it, sort of thing, and everything as well. It wasn't just about the results. It was the broadening of experiences that I did. I could have done lots of different modules of within my course, but I chose to make them quite broad. And like I said, is it not economics, business studies, law. So I was quite trying to get myself very rounded when I left university. So I had different skills that I could hopefully have taken into the world of work after that sort of thing and everything as well. So
and was you a confident young lad? And in terms of life skills, what's one thing that you going to uni taught you about life?
Yeah, I think I was confident. So at secondary school, so kind of like 15, 16, I would have no problem standing in front of the whole school and giving a presentation or something like that sort of thing. I think those sort of things never faze me, and I don't know where I get that from as well. So, I think there's just either like that or you're not to some degree. So I think that was, very, confident. I think as well as my family instilled confidence in me. They very much not pushed me in the sense of like, we're pushy, but, instilled the confidence that, that me and my brother and sister could achieve great things. So which was, a very nice environment to be brought up in within there. So then when I went to university, I think like I said earlier, I'm quite an independent person, so I almost reveled in that part of being on my own and having to look after myself a little bit, because I actually want to do that. I didn't want to be mothered at home and these sort of things and everything as well. So I like that balance of the independence of the study as well in the independence of life as well.
Absolutely. And Kate, for you, what was next?
So I loved the waitressing, as I said, and then I moved into telesales. And it wasn't actually until I was reflecting back in preparation for this that I thought most of this has been around connecting with people and kind of harnessing those communication skills. So after that, I went and worked in a bank and did like the cashier desk. So again, people interaction. And actually, I do think that's what set me up. So although I haven't got the qualifications and kind of the academic side, I did learn rapidly how to get the most from people and how to work with people. And that, I do think, is what's, again, grounded me in these various different senior roles that I've had.
And from the banking, what did banking teach you?
Banking taught me that I did not want to sit still. So I sat still for a period of time, I think about 12 months, and I just kind of looked to my left, looked to my right, and recognised that those individuals had been there. There's nothing wrong with this, but I'd been there for 15 or 20 years. And I just knew that just wasn't for me. So after I'd done all the various roles within the bank that I could do to a certain level, and I did ask for more, and there wasn't much more, I thought, no, it's time for me to move on. And when I think about the telesales and I think about the banking and I think about the office job I then moved on to, as well as the communication side, for me, it's more about, I like being organised. So I've got these organisation skills. So if I'm not doing something for work, I'm organising girls' trips, birthday parties. I have to keep myself busy.
And where did that organisation come from? Was it something in your childhood? Is it just something you developed? Is it another one of your USPs?
I think it maybe because I'm the oldest child and I've, probably ushered my siblings along and been organised, getting them organised for all sorts of different things. That maybe that's just instilled in me. And Graham said I'm fiercely independent as well. So, yeah, I just like being organised.
And what does independence mean to you both? Like, what does that truly mean in the workplace?
How I would see independence is having a level of autonomy to be able to do certain things on your own, as in being authorised to do that. So, and I'd like people to have that sort of thing and everything as well. I'd rather people, to a certain point, there's certain levels of which people could do, learn from that. And I say I'd rather that and come with, I might have done this wrong and can have, how can we fix it, rather than continuously ask. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? So I think it is important to give people independence within it. I think that's like Kate's got great skills of understanding people, of better than me, I would say, in that sort of sense of understanding how to work with people in that sort of sense and how you mould people. So I think it's how much independence you can or cannot give them within it. But I think it is important that people have various degrees of independence within any sort of work environment, with any sort of structure that we have as well.
I think for me, not work related, but just from a personal point of view, I never took the traditional route, and I was really conscious that all my friends did. So I never wanted their parents to see me as, let's see how this one turns out. I was really conscious of that. And so the independence for me was I wanted to always be able to stand on my own 2 feet. If I wanted to get a place, I wanted to be able to afford that. And I didn't want those younger decisions that I made around not following the university path to kind of bite me later on. So that's the kind of independence part for me.
So what I'm hearing is independence personally will really help you in the workplace. Because the amount of young people that I talk to and I go, you went into a job, why are you not in that job after 3 weeks? I couldn't afford the travel. Well, let's look back at your independence, your money management, how does that look? How do you go through life? And it's all that kind of stuff that you learn early on that can help you become a better professional, right?
Yeah, very much so. And I think, like I said, those sort of decisions when, people say, the travel's too expensive, the office hasn't moved, the fares haven't doubled sort of thing. So it's kind of understanding, that situation was exactly the same 3 months ago. So it's having that, that thought process of going, well, actually, if I'm going somewhere, then, how much is it going to cost me to get there? And, is it worth it? And all of these sort of things as well. But I think it is about, your grounding that you have and, understanding that, your budgeting or, your work ethic or how you're going to react within your first jobs or in, your second, third or fourth job, whatever that would look to be sort of thing. I think attitude is a real key, a key piece within it sort of thing. So I get asked a lot normally on team Christmas do's, these sort of things. People kind of, come over to me after a few drinks and the typical question, how do I get your job? What can I do to get your job? Sort of thing is a very typical it's normally one of the junior people in the office sort of thing.
And what's your answer?
So my answer is normally is that, this hasn't just happened sort of thing. I've not just stumbled in the office.
You just didn't put a badge on saying
CEO. And it's kind of going, it's kind of understanding of actually the things that I've had to do to get to this point. And the saying is that it's not just doing your job, it's doing the job and then going, how can I learn more? What do I need to do to get the next job? What are the skills that I need? What am I lacking? What experience do I need to have? What aptitude do I need to show? So I've tried and hopefully have done that more often than not in my whole career of actually, I've always wanted my boss's job. Or somebody else's job higher up. I've always right, where's next? But not thinking I'm going to get that in 6 months, but then going, that's my next step and having that goal of saying, right, within X time period, that's where I want to be. And then putting in, maybe staying late or maybe volunteering for, for projects that you want to be involved in. It's all of those little bits that add up to the bigger bits. And then when promotions or restructurings come about, you're positioned in the right sort of light. And as I've done lots of those different things throughout my career that people don't see and they don't understand, sort of thing, and everything as well. So
Yeah.
You see the title, right?
yeah.
Just see the title. I do think the landscape's changed, though. I think because there's so much choice now, I do think that can change how resilient people are or what they tolerate. And I think, back in my first 4 or 5 roles, there was moments that were really grim, and I didn't like the person I was working for, or I didn't like the hours. I didn't like what I was getting paid. There was lots of situations I didn't actually enjoy, but I stuck with it because I felt I had to, because it was an amount of money that I wanted to earn to do the various things I wanted to do in my life. But I do think now sometimes people can be a little bit quick to make that change. And give up, give up too soon.
Why do you think that is? Because I totally agree with you. I think that confidence is at all-time low. Resilience needs to be a little bit more especially with the younger generation. As a young person, the one thing that's helped me is by being as resilient as I can, and you can always be a little bit more resilient, and then you think you're resilient and you meet someone else and you're like, actually I'm not. But like, what can people do to become more resilient and not give up and realise that, you want your boss's job, but you know what, before you start opening your mouth, do your job really well. Yeah. Do that really well, then volunteer, and then that's when the magic will happen. Yeah. But like, how do you tangibly build those skills?
Yeah. I think it comes down to the people and the connection side. So I think we with social media, we've become quite insular, and the more interactions that we can have with each other and more connections that you can build, that effectively builds that confidence and will build that resilience, because every interaction isn't always going to be a pleasant one, So I just think I think that's why I'm as resilient as I am, because I've had many a grumpy person that I've delivered, Spanish tapas to, and thought about, how I want to handle that in the future. So I think that's what it boils down to for me, is the getting out and building connections a little bit.
So getting out there, experiencing it, building connections, understanding not every conversation is going to be all
sunshine and rainbows.
Sunshine and rainbows, and you can learn from the good conversations, but also the bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and take feedback and welcome that feedback. Ask somebody, did I do that well? What could I have done better? I get asked a lot in interviews. I don't know if it's the same for you, but at the end of an interview now, somebody will say to me, is there anything I could have said or done differently in this interview? And I think that's a brilliant question. That's exactly the right thing to ask, because if you leave and you didn't get that job, then at least you know why. And I think from a recruiter's perspective, there's a responsibility to say, be honest in that scenario. Don't just say you did everything right, but they don't get the job anyway. I think you have a moral obligation to tell people where they can improve. And I'm a firm believer in feedback and being firm and direct.
Feedback is a gift, but so many people have feedback fear.
Yeah.
And they say they want the feedback, but when it's the feedback for them, they fear it. Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't know how to break down the feedback and then action it and then work out what feedback they should take on, what they shouldn't, and A, B, and C. Yeah. How do you build that? How do you get rid of that feedback fear, Graham?
I think when people say they want the feedback, sometimes they want the sugar-coated feedback, but I think it's in the delivery of it as well. So there's ways of saying, that wasn't the best you could have done, as opposed to just saying that was rubbish, sort of thing. So I think it's not just about the more junior people who we can help, but it's also sometimes the mid-level management as well, of actually their responsibility of actually developing the team around them who may be more junior and don't have the fear that actually you might be developing them and they might end up being your boss in a few years' time, sort of thing. So don't be as scared of somebody potentially being promoted above you within it. So, and I think is that I've seen places where that is being the case, where people are trying pushing down people developing, sort of thing. And it's a culture we hopefully have not got in our organisation. So then we're very keen on ensuring that we do have a lot of internal promotions. And I think therefore it's ensuring that the people who are delivering the feedback are doing it in the constructive way and not just a very critical sort of way, but at the same time not sugarcoating it. And that's a fine line, and I think it's difficult to really to really put words on exactly how you do that. But I think it's kind of going, how would I always look at it whenever I do things like this. I always try, how would I want to hear it, and what, and not so that it's kind of like really harsh, but then so that it's actually landing so I can understand it and learn from it. So, trying to spin it around of going, how would I want to hear this sort of thing and everything as well. So
I think you're absolutely right. I do think the responsibility is on the person giving the feedback. Let me give you an example of what happened to me when I was 18 from a feedback perspective. So the company I was working for at the time, first big proper full-time job in student accommodation, and there was a restructure, and I was relatively prematurely in the role that I already had, and so it wasn't a prerequisite that I was going to get the job that I was going for necessarily, but I wanted to put my hat in the ring. And when I sat down to find out I didn't get that job, the justification for it was, you don't have enough presence. And that's haunted me, by the way, for a really, really long time. I think that's where my imposter syndrome comes from. But I never understood at 18 tangibly what does that mean, and how do I rectify that? Is that based on what I'm wearing? Is it that I'm 5 foot? What actually does that mean for me? And I never got anything tangible from that person that meant I could do anything with it. So I'm really conscious. I am direct and I do give feedback, but I always check how it's landed and always make sure that I'm giving something tangible in terms of how that person moves forward with that.
Isn't that ironic? Sorry, Jack. Isn't that ironic that actually something that you didn't actually get tangible feedback from, you've utilised to actually create something which you then provide really tangible outcomes from?
Yeah. There's definitely benefits for other people in there.
But you had a lot of presence walking in here today.
Thank you. I'll take it. It's the heels.
Hello, Otto Sergey.
Hello, Mr. Alexander. Are you looking for a credit card?
Oh, he's good. With Otto Sergey's handy credit card feature, he'll check your chances of approval before you apply, without impacting your credit score, taking the guesswork out of finding a credit card.
Simples.
Hey, that's my line.
I want to talk now a little bit about Homes for Students and how it all came about. What does it do? Tell me, who wants to start?
Yeah, so it all started, so there's 4 of us who set the business up, and we all worked together in a similar organisation beforehand. And then from that, we realised that actually we could actually do something better if we did it ourselves. So instead of being part of another organisation, we will leave and set up the company. So we made that decision in 2015 and says, actually, this is something we really want to do. So a lot of work in the background into research. Is it a viable business? What's it? Is the statistics right that there's going to be a growing number of students? What's the availability? What are the barriers into the market? All of these sort of things. And also, what's the team need to look like? So there's 4 of us, and we had 3 other people. So we started with a team of 7. So the magnificent 7, you can maybe call them. And it was all about replicating a little bit what we'd done before. And we had, goals and ambitions of getting to a certain size of company. We used to manage everything on kind of the number of beds that we operate. So the original target was get to 25,000 beds. So we had confidence in ourselves. So we probably overspent on systems and things that we needed in order to say, well, it's going to be a scalable business, so we'll buy the bigger system, we'll buy the bigger networks. And I suppose is that confidence, arrogance? I don't know, maybe a little bit of both within here. But we had a real backing of ourselves that we could deliver within it. So that was probably a little bit of how it all kind of came about, and recognizing some of the changes. It wasn't just fully replicating where we come from, changing that actually it was more linked into what we would refer to the direct let market. So students coming to us directly, so having to market all around the world to all of our properties. And I say that's where there's a lot more focus on kind of Kate's department when we kind of set up, because of sin is that we needed to reach basically everywhere around the world in order to attract the students to the buildings that we manage. Really.
Can I just say on that as well? From a kind of a tip point of view, is that it's as important for young people to understand that how you leave an organisation is as important as how you start in an organisation, because the time period that Graham's talking about, I'd already left the previous company, but I left on really good terms. We'd worked really well together, and I went to work somewhere else before Graham and Martin came sort of knocking for me. And they wouldn't have done that if we hadn't have had that, you know, that really solid relationship in the first place. But when we parted ways, it was very strong as well. So I just want to make sure that people understand it's not about going out in any blazes of glory throughout your career, because these things can come back to haunt you.
Absolutely. The world's quite small, actually.
Yeah.
Totally agree. How you leave an organisation is so important. What would you say to both of you is your tips in terms of how do you leave an organisation the right way and not burn bridges, as they say?
Yeah, I think you have to give the employer an opportunity to change what it is that you don't feel that you have. So if you are stood still within a role, but you know that there's no career progression, but you give them an opportunity to add more into your role. So as an example, I was doing a regional sales management role, and there wasn't anywhere else for me to progress on that. But because I flagged that with my employer, they were able to say, well, actually, Kate, we want you to lead on this project, you know, and kind of give them an opportunity to do that. And when they can't match that, have a really honest conversation about, therefore that does mean that I need to leave, but there's no hard feelings in that.
Yeah. Great. I think, just to add to that, I think during your notice period, and that can be anything from, you know, a week to 3 months, ensuring that you're acting as professional as possible. So, you know, don't down tools, because that's when you'll be given a reputation as being lazy, or, you know, you'll soon get the blame for everything and everything as well. So, you know, do a good handover to whoever's going to be taking over your role. Make sure all your notes are up to date. You know, feedback professionally to your, if you're dealing with external people, of, you know, that you're leaving, and don't be bad-mouthing, these sort of things and everything as well. So I say the key word in all of that is just to be professional, and do what you would normally be doing as if you were, you know, not during your notice period, you know, within here as well. Because I think it's, you know, you'll be remembered for not acting in that sort of way, which can really tarnish what could have been a great career, and you might be moving on to, you know, a fantastic opportunity, but then because of how you might act in your last few weeks, you know, your actual reputation within the organisation could be, they were lazy, disorganised, and rude, and so it's and it's soon, as a small world, you soon find out. Multiple times people ring me for unofficial references, or I heard this person used to work for you, sort of thing, and these sort of things as well. So, you know, it's much better to just leave with dignity and grace.
Totally agree.
Did
anyone ever say you were all mad to leave of one organisation and go and set something up?
Yeah, and my body said that, because I got an abscess at the time, because it was such a big life decision. I'd just moved house, just got married, and thought, oh, I've got this great job, everything's settled. I know what I'll do is I'll just rip all that up and start again. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I remember my dad pulling me aside and saying, "Are you making the right decision here?" Sort of thing, because, you know, I had a very safe and secure role in the previous organisation, potential promotion coming up and everything as well. He's like, "Why are you going to give all that up?" And I'm just like, because I believe that we can do something better, and, you know, I believe in the team and everything as well, and I believe in ourselves, and we will make it happen. So yeah, I think is that there were some questions that were asked of us, but I think I say, hopefully it's not the arrogance, it's just internal belief. And I think you know, we were fortunate in this sense, in that we were given assurances from one of the founders to give us a bit more financial security in that sort of sense as well, so that it wasn't as big of a risk, but it still was a risk, and we had very much bumps in the road in that first kind of 6 to 12 months. But, you know, not looked back since, really, sort of thing. So. And
one of the first things that we did as a group of 7 was sit down and say, from when we worked together over here, what were the pitfalls? What have we learnt? What are we never going to do again? And what are we absolutely going to emulate? So that was kind of one of our first away weekends, so to speak, was that we just brainstormed everything about who we wanted to be as an organisation, and that, I think, set us in really good stead for the future, because we were always able to say, remember when we agreed we were never going to do that again, or remember when we said we'd always deliver to our promises and we'd never let people down, you know, holding each other to kind of a leadership promise on that.
And what did that period teach you that the rest of your career didn't? Because it's quite different from working in an organisation to then going to set something up and being 7 of you going, okay, logo, name, A, B, C, and everything in between, and figuring it out. I'm a big believer of long life learning, and you can learn from every single person you meet. Like, what was some of those things that you learned that just has made you better people, better professionals, something that you now stand by truly?
I think for me, because in the early days, you're absolutely right, we were sat around a table saying, what do we want to be called? What do we want the logo to be? What are going to be our primary colours? You know, that sort of thing. That inclusivity and feeling like you can really make a difference and harness the shape of a company, that's what we've emulated with our managers and leadership teams, is that we've took them on a journey with us to say, well, actually, you're part of that. The next big decision you need to make for us, and we all need to kind of, sit around a table and listen to your thoughts. So I think because of those early days, that made us recognise how important it was to get other people's opinions and make them feel valued.
I think to add to that, I think all those first things were like really exciting because it was ours. It wasn't somebody else going, oh, no. The decision was made by the 4 of us, really, and we're like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it was quick to make decisions. We didn't have to go through and write big business cases and these sort of things, I think, as well. And that was quite, we were quite, dynamic of what we could do and all these sort of things. And I used to refer to the diversity I used to have of my role in that one, in the morning I might go and meet in a fund about managing their portfolio, and then I say in the afternoon I might be meeting the housekeeping team to talk about what bleach we're going to order for the cleaning sort of thing and everything in between. But I think what that has taught us as well is we've done most of the roles within the business, so we can we know how things could work. And I say when you're in a startup, you do a bit of everything. So, things like the policies and procedures, most of them were written by the 4 of us and have just evolved slightly through time. So we know and we understand all parts of the business. And I think that's quite unique, really, within it as well. But also we can say to the team, we've done that. We know how to do it. So it's not just somebody who's come in at a senior level and then kind of dictating how things are going to be done, but it's more of going, we understand that, but actually, you guys can improve it because we did that 5 years ago, whatever that could be. How can you make it better, sort of thing? And so I think it's all of those things of having intrinsically being involved in all parts of the business, but also the key, as excitement was the key thing for me, of being able to go, we're steering the ship of what direction we want it to go. So that was, that replaced the fear, really.
Did you ever have moments of doubt and wanted to quit? It could be something went wrong on a Friday and you're like, is this the right pathway? Is this because I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, you're so passionate and you care so much. It's so personal because you pick the colours, you pick the name, you want it to work. You want it to work for not just for yourself, but for your residents, your customers, the employees, and all your stakeholders. That you can sometimes get a bit emotional. And have you ever thought to yourself, actually, is this going to work? Am I doing it right? And how do you, and linking back to someone in their career or someone who's currently studying at uni, what's your advice to them when they might have a wobble?
I think the closest reference I can think to that was during the pandemic and when we went into lockdown. That felt pretty scary at the very start of that because we were uncertain in that whole period about, are we still going to get our fees? We still had an awful lot of of staff that we needed to employ. We had suppliers, we had multiple clients to deal with, and there was that real level of uncertainty that the whole of the UK, the whole of the world is going through at that point of view. But as the owners of the business and as the leaders of the business, I think we felt that real responsibility within it. And I think, we used to meet every morning. We had a conference call every morning and every night, kind of top and tail in the day sort of thing. And I says that one thing that we all are is we're not work shy, and we'd ground it out. We worked hard, we'd looked for opportunities, and we kind of, our work was how can we make sure that we're not going to be beaten. We're very determined, as I said earlier, and actually from that, in the end, came opportunities. We actually purchased 2 companies during the academic because they came up. We were smart with our cash, and we found opportunities of how we could do it. So from the start of that pandemic, looking as if, oh my God, is this going to be, the end of the business, to actually grew the business during that whole time period and everything as well. And as I said, I do put that down to, the work ethic that we have as individuals, but then as Kate mentioned earlier, the type of people that we've employed, and that type of people as well, they care. So it's amazing. I still find amazing about how much people who work for us really care about the business, and I love that. It's really passionate about what they do. So,
but I think we've allowed them to be that sort of passionate and committed to the organisation because they genuinely are shaping it. It's not a facade that we put up to say we want to hear your opinion. What our teams actually say is what the business is and how it's shaped. So I think during the pandemic, there was this real sense of we're all in this together and we will come out the other side. So everybody put the extra shifts in and everybody was so focused on that this wouldn't tear us down that just meant there was no other route.
How have you been able to guard yourself from mucky ducks? So a mucky duck, yeah? You put a duck into a bath and that duck is dirty and the water gets dirty. That dirty duck puts it into the water. That water is your culture. Your other ducks are in the bath. The other ducks then get dirty and you've got 2 choices. You've got to quickly get that mucky duck out of your bath as quickly as you can and tell them to clean and then put them back in or remove them. Or alternatively, you have to pull your whole plug.
Yeah.
So I always, and Leon, we always look around ourselves and go, right, is there any mucky ducks in our life? Whether they're a supplier, whether they're a customer, whatever it is. How do you defend yourselves from mucky ducks? And how can others defend themselves from mucky ducks in their life so they don't go down a bad road?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that, because let's face it, we don't always get our hires 100% right, no matter how intentional we've been about recruitment. But one thing that I can say that we have always done is if we've got it wrong, we've addressed it. And not just for us as an organisation, but that individual could feel incredibly uncomfortable as well. So we've dealt with it, I think, is the absolute critical thing you can do. The impact that one individual that's wrong for your organisation can actually have on the rest of what you've built can be profound in a very short space of time as well. So I'm definitely not shying away from we've had those scenarios, but we have always dealt with them in a kind of rapid time frame, which has then given our teams the confidence to say, well, I know I can't be tolerating this within my team, so actually I need to do something about that.
So you've identified the mucky ducks and you've not let them dirty the water?
After they've been given feedback that they need to have a stronger shower, we have then, if they haven't, then obviously then we've taken them out of the bath.
I like it, because in life there's loads of mucky ducks. And have you ever been mucky ducks in your own business? Have you ever done stuff where you thought, like Offset earlier, I talked a little bit about when I used to blame the teachers and I was being a mucky duck, and I was like, actually, it's not the teacher's fault that youth are not getting the employment skills. They've got a hard job to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to learn the hard way in anything, whether it's in your role now or whether it's when you was 18? Have you ever been a mucky duck?
I'll talk about in the organisation now, and I'm not going to be as harsh on myself and say I was a mucky duck, but somebody asked me recently in one of our leaders' summits, have I got any regrets? And my one regret is not listening to the team when they were passionately telling me 3-4 years ago that we needed to invest more in our whole tech stack. And times were moving on and I was less comfortable with the whole technology side of things. And actually, that probably delayed things for us at that time. We've rapidly caught up with all of that, introducing our own apps for students to use and much better systems. But I was a mucky duck for a tiny, small amount of time. putting the brakes on that.
I like that.
Yeah, I think the only time I can recall was probably at my first job. So I was a trainee accountant, and I was probably so keen to make an impression. So fresh out of university, first job, that I started creating these like audit reports and these sort of things and everything as well. And I was so keen to present them to my boss, knowing that actually gave some people put people in quite a bad light. That instead of going to them first and presenting the findings to them and going, do you know what, this doesn't look great, do you want to explain it or give them the opportunity? I just avoided them and just went straight to them. And maybe that was because I didn't want that confrontation at the time, sort of thing. So this was in like an aggregates, so it was like quarry managers and these sort of things as well. So quite, hard individuals. So probably a bit, maybe I don't want that conflict. So I chose the easier route and just present the report. And I think that, I said, looking back at that was the wrong thing to do. And, it's just like, because that caused big disruptions and I ended up getting the conflict worse because of the way that I dealt with it. So I think it's things like that I'd learnt with of going, actually, if you've got something which is, it's something bad or presenting something in a negative way, have the conversation about it. Don't just report up within it. It's something that, that I don't think I did again.
And you learn, right?
Yeah.
It makes you a better leader, a better person as you go forward.
Yep.
And so students, what? Tell me about the future. What are you so excited about? That you can share.
Yeah. We've grown, dramatically over the 10 years, sort of thing. So went from seven people to now, over 1,200 people, and we now manage 55,000 beds all around the UK. So phenomenal growth, within there. And as Kate was saying earlier, what we've done is that how can we diversify a little bit, or how can we do things differently to make sure that we can continue to grow? So we've done a lot more in the technology side, more because I say, is it trying to find efficiencies, or how can we make things easier? So for people to book with us, how can you make that better and easier and not as clunky and less paperwork and, not as easy as maybe as buying something off Amazon, but, I say is making the processes as simple as possible. So it's all those little marginal changes that we're making to things in the back office to make the shop window as easy as possible. So it's all those parts that we've been doing also that can help us continue to grow. Because we had our leader summit recently, and I was saying to everyone, it was a bit of a celebration of our 10 years of running as an organisation. I was like, if everyone thinks that we've made it, you're in the wrong room. We're going to continue to evolve and to grow, and if you need to be part of that journey, because if you stand still, you effectively are going backwards. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but so it's always looking at all those different ways, and what we don't just do is rely upon. That's just the executive team who have to come up with those thoughts and ideas. Everybody can contribute into that because we don't have the answers to everything, sort of thing. So.
And look, we're led by the students' feedback ultimately. So just to give you a bit for flavour, so over the last 12 months, we've had 40,000 responses from students in telling us what's most valuable to them, what's most important to them. So we're hearing it, and we always sit and have a you said we did moment with our executive team. So it's important that we're hearing from our student demographic as well to tell us what we need to do.
I think that's so important. You can't be on the top floor, you don't understand the shop floor. Are you always
True story.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of all this success, you've had a success. I've looked at your profiles, and you here today are just brilliant. And I've looked into the business. You have been very successful. What's your invisible success? What's something that I can't see online, or it's not in this little magazine or on a report that you believe has made you successful? What's one thing?
I'm going to say it before Kate comes out with it. So one of the things that we always say is that we've said it a few times as well today, but our people are our superpower. We have some fantastic people who work in the organisation, and what I always am really proud to see is how passionate and proud people are to work for us as well. And I think that can't be fully seen or fully, you can't put that in a brochure fully, you've got to experience that. And the way that you can experience that is that I know people going above and beyond because they care within it. So, and it's part of the culture that we try to have this kind of family feel, and ensuring that people are, look after their colleagues as well as their clients and the residents in that sort of sense. So it's about the individuals that we bring into the organisation is probably one of the invisible superpower.
You know what, I felt that today, off camera and on camera, and how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you kind, like, I've noticed that today. I watch, so I saw that. Yeah, I've seen that. What about you?
I would just add to that you're not at work 100% of the time, and one of the amazing things that I think our organisation does is allows you the space to do exactly what you want to do outside of work as well. So whilst building this business, I've also had 3 children and taken 3 maternity leaves, because I've been able to leave my role and my responsibilities in the capable hands of the team that we've created. So we're a very family-orientated business internally from a cultural perspective, but actually we're also very family friendly in terms of I've been able to achieve my personal life goals of being a mum. So I think that's made a big difference for me.
Empowering, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Kate, Graham, are you ready for my final question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet every morning?
I'll go. So for me, it's about adding value. So I have to be working for an organisation or adding value into my family, friends, my children, my husband's lives. Every day I kind of go, right, okay, from a continuous improvement point of view, how am I going to make things better and how am I going to add value?
Love that, add value.
Add value.
Yeah. For me, it's about the continuous development that we've seen. And I say what I'm always back on is the team that I've seen us help grow and develop. So there's a number of people that are part of very senior positions within the organisation who joined us very junior, and seeing the changes in their lives as well, both personally and professionally, of what opportunities they've been able to now do as a result of that, and actually thinking we've played a part in all those little things, and no doubt that there'll be other knock-on effects, and it's kind of ripples in the pond, isn't it, sort of thing. So. And I say is that when we've done reflections on our kind of, our career and the business over the last 10 years, those sort of things, I would say I've looked back with pride of going, we've been part of so many different things that have, have made changes positively, hopefully, in people's lives. So I think that, that's something that, motivates me, sort of thing as well, so.
I love that. I just want to say thank you for joining
having
me
us.
on the show.
Thank you.
And it's been such a fantastic conversation, and I think it's going to do so well. So thank you for coming on, being your authentic self, sharing your story, giving us lots of wisdom and knowledge, but also helping us and helping the team here at My Duvet Flip to help more young people to get up and flip the duvet into their careers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling just before sitting down with Jack?
Sorry, I'm going to start again.
That was really good. Kate, the pressure's on now if you want to be Graham.
Always does this to me.
You two are proper competitors, aren't you?